Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Los Angeles. Tonight kicks off what's sure to be an exciting week for us all. My name is Jay Allard, and I'm the head of the Xbox Platform Group, and I'm thrilled to be the first to welcome all of you to E3.
During E3 2004, Microsoft unveiled their new digital game service, Xbox Live Arcade. The main selling point of the initiative was to give indie developers the chance to have their games available on a console via a digital service.
And be available on demand on the Xbox Live service. It's a new feature called the Xbox Live Arcade, and it'll allow live gamers to download their favorites. Games like Galaxian.
What the hell is this?
Let's go visit the arcade.
Welcome to Amazing Arcade. We have many choices for your gaming pleasure.
Various details regarding the service were also revealed, such as pricing and a targeted launch date. Games were to be priced anywhere from $5 to $20 individually. While this was a big step for the industry at the time, it really wasn't given much of a second thought. That was until the service was re-revealed the following year at E3 2005 for the launch of Microsoft's next home console, the Xbox 360. On November 22nd, 2005, the service launched on the Xbox 360 with a changed business model. Now games on the service would range anywhere from $2.50 up to $20. Along with this pricing change, every game that debuted on the service would be required to offer a free downloadable demo version of the game. This was to give users the option of trying the game out before purchasing. However, during the launch window, Microsoft implemented a limit on the size of the games that would be allowed on the platform, with the maximum size only being 50 megabytes. Eventually, down the road, that limit would be increased all the way up to 2 gigabytes. Microsoft assured consumers that the cap was simply due to technical limitations with the Xbox 360's marketplace. Later in the service's run, games would be released without a free playable demo, and Microsoft featured a new category for games simply titled Indie. Games released under the Indie label tended to be more sandbox-type experiences, with some highlights being the Castle Miner series, Murder Miners, and Fortress Craft. These games, however, would generally cost around 99 cents, which gave them sizable player bases for those who didn't have the funds for the higher budget games for the time. As a child, these were the titles I spent most of my time playing with friends, besides Minecraft. Every day after school, I'd rush home and throw on my Five Below officially licensed Xbox 360 headset. Throughout the years, the service continued to grow and garner praise from fans. But there was one thing that consumers had constantly mentioned. By 2012, the service was nearing its 6-year anniversary, and Microsoft had yet to debut a completely free-to-play game on the storefront. Luckily for fans, they wouldn't have to wait much longer, for on October 12th, Xbox Live Arcade would get its first free-to-play title, Happy Wars. Happy Wars was released as the first free-to-play game on Xbox Live Arcade, developed by Toylogic and published by Microsoft. As an action-adventure RPG, the game wasn't really anything new. In fact, if you slap Skylanders footage right next to this, the similarities are pretty clear. Even more of a coincidence, Happy Wars launched exactly 1 year after Spyro's Adventure did. When first starting the game, there are two options. You can either jump right into the multiplayer, or you can choose to play the game's story mode campaign. The game intends for you to play the campaign first and then go to multiplayer, as it acts as a tutorial for the game's mechanics. As you play through missions, you're rewarded with gear for your character as well as Happy Stars, one of the 2 currencies that the game uses. In these missions, you are given various objectives, however, they all play out just like any multiplayer match would. Push past the enemies and then make your way to their castle where you'll break down the main gate and then dismantle the enemy's tower. But as much as I could discuss the entirety of Happy Wars' extremely in-depth storyline, the game is advertised as a multiplayer experience. Jumping into a quick match queues us for a standard PvP game. In this mode, you'll first have to wait 10 minutes before you can find enough players to even begin. You'll fight your way to the enemy's castle while constructing towers as respawn locations. The majority of the game's maps play out the exact same way, which can get repetitive at times, but it's not that big of a deal. The game also features a second mode for a change of pace, that being co-op. In co-op mode, you, along with a team of players, fight against computer enemies to reach their castle and dismantle their tower. While this sounds like the exact same song as dance as PvP, but with bots, there's a big twist. Emphasis on big.
Yoshi!
Co-op features special boss enemies that are not only stronger, but much bigger than the standard enemy. These change the pace of the battle immensely and make co-op a much more preferred game mode. Also the fact that it takes much less time to enter a match. Some of these boss enemies have resistance against different class types as well. You can make the claim that gameplay as a whole gets pretty dull, but don't let me catch you dissing this soundtrack. Come on, man! Just listen to these bangers! And then Deep Sea went... Don't you do it. While I had previously compared the in-game presentation to be similar to Skylanders, the difference with Happy Wars is that the game expects you to be over the age of 5. Construction plays a big part in progressing your team to the castle gate. As previously stated, you can build towers which allow your team to spawn closer to the castle. Around the map are different boxes of materials which you can interact with to construct various pieces of equipment, but I'll get into those later. In the bottom right, you can find your special moves which are performed with different button presses. Depending on how you perform in the current match, you will unlock more abilities which you can use later on in the same game. After every match, you'll receive a gift box that will reward you with equipment. The better you perform in a match, the better the item will be. You can use these items in the character customization menu, and these will always give you stuff like gear and weapons. You'll notice that only certain items can be used on certain character types. So let's talk about those. When starting off, you're able to create 3 different characters under each of the 3 character classifications: Warrior, Cleric, and Mage. Warrior types generally have a stronger offense with their equipment, with their gear usually coming with damage buffs. Clerics are more tanky and usually have a slower movement. Clerics can also spawn those equipment boxes that I discussed earlier, such as turrets, ladders, and even the battering ram to quickly break down the castle gate. As well as being the tankiest, clerics play support, allowing you to give buffs to your allies, such as giving them a speed boost or a milk carton to increase their defense. Lastly is the mage type, which acts as a form of artillery, allowing you to cast long-range spells and give elemental buffs to your allies' weapons. Across every class, there are a plethora of team skills. These team skills are activated by having team members join in to perform them. These vary from lightning showers, turning enemies into flowers, giving everyone a damage buff, and so on. With this being Xbox Live Arcade's very first completely free-to-play game, the player base grew rapidly, and with that, the team would implement regular updates to keep the content fresh. The game's first major update came in July of 2013, introducing a new subclass for the warrior type named Berserker. This would be a purchasable class that allowed for a warrior to dual-wield weapons by excluding a shield. Alongside this, the game introduced a quest system that would reward players for completing various challenges in exchange for Happy Stars, Happy Tickets, and gear. It was reported in October of 2013 that Happy Wars had reached 6 million downloads. In the same month, Toylogic announced their Season 2 update for the game. This update, dubbed Happy Wartober, would feature a new character class, Engineer. This was a subclass for the Cleric, which would allow players to repair equipment using a repair tool, as well as have access to different new abilities. The big selling point for this update was the introduction of a special team skill exclusive to the Engineer class, which would allow players to build and ride a giant mech into battle. The last part of Season 2 would be the game's first Halloween event, featuring new items, quests, and a limited time event for co-op mode. Around the same time, it was announced that Happy Wars would be coming to PC the following year on May 28, 2014.
Ladies and gentlemen, breakthrough innovation.
Watch TV, Skype. Only Microsoft and Xbox could bring this level of power, performance, and sophistication to the living room.
Actual SEAL Team service dog.
Xbox One going in the XT.
With Microsoft's newest home console, the Xbox One, releasing in November of the previous year, Toylogic didn't want their game to be stuck on the last generation. In 2015, it was announced that an updated version of the game would be coming to Xbox One. Along with this launch, Season 3 would also be revealed to release on the same day as the Xbox One port on April 24th, 2015. Past this point, updates will be rolled out for the game a while longer, adding new items, quests, and introducing rideable mounts and changing the game's UI. Behind the scenes, however, Toylogic was preparing their next big announcement to be shown at E3 2015. At the show, Toylogic revealed the sequel to Happy Wars, Happy Dungeons. Visually, the game looked identical to Happy Wars, but featured new locations and enemies. The game took a lot of its mechanics and simply brought them over to a new game. Same character class customization, progression, and gameplay, really. The main difference for this structure, however, was the lack of real PvP emphasis. A lot was put on the focus of the PvE gameplay, assembling a team and going on missions together, completing tasks and collecting treasure. It was a pretty straightforward dungeon crawler. The game was to be released in December of 2016 for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Hearing of how this game at the time would only be on next gen was really one of the driving factors that made me want to get an Xbox One. A big difference with this game, however, was that it wasn't only developed by Toylogic, but also published by themselves, and not Microsoft, which is what allowed them to bring the game to PlayStation 4. However, this did much to amplify the game's attention. The game premiered on Xbox One on December 6th, 2016, with the PlayStation 4 release not coming until nearly a year later on September 12th of 2017. From launch onward, the game was criticized for its poor connection issues. Not to say that Happy Wars didn't have its fair share, but not to this extent. Disconnecting was frequent, with players being thrown out of games seemingly at random. Toylogic did their best to address these issues, but it did much to save the game's reputation. Around the game's launch, it was announced that the services for Happy Wars on Xbox 360 and Windows would be shut down on December 17th of 2018. This caused a rush of players to the game and a reported decrease in Happy Dungeon's player base. Keep in mind, Happy Dungeons is not a bad game, far from it. In fact, it is a well-crafted game with nice cutscenes and a lot of charm to it as well. But it simply didn't do enough to really differentiate itself from its predecessor. After various updates did little to draw attention to the game, Toylogic announced the closure of Happy Dungeons, which would occur in June of 2019. With Toylogic focusing most of their time on Happy Dungeons during its run, Happy Wars would never receive another season-based update past the third. Even after Happy Dungeons was shut down and pulled from digital storefronts, Happy Wars only received rare updates from the team, the most recent being for the game's 10-year anniversary. Today, it's nearly impossible to start a quick match, and it'll take a good few minutes of sitting before you can run up a game of co-op. Even then, people will leave, forcing the game to end. However, it seems odd that the failure of a separate project would cause the first game to fall as well. So what could have caused it? Keep in mind that Happy Wars, throughout its existence, has always been free to play. Toylogic needed some way to make profit. So how did they do it? Microtransactions. This was before the big push against pay-to-win additions to games that happened a few years ago. The currency that would be rewarded to players during matches wasn't for nothing. This game required a lot of grinding if you wanted to climb the ranks. But if the lengthy grind wasn't really your speed, gear could simply be purchased. You could spend your hard-earned money on Happy Tickets, the currency used to pay for Happy Cards, the game's randomized loot system. Using currency to buy Happy Card packs would give the player equipment for their characters. If you wanted the best gear in the game, well then it came down to two options. Either spend hundreds of hours grinding, or spend your money.
Creeper. Oh man.
Players who handed Microsoft their credit cards would be given a massive boost in power compared to anyone who had just started playing. Along with this, PvP didn't have a skilled matchmaking system, as it was encouraged to help new players learn the game. Additionally, the later added subclasses were premium and could not be unlocked without purchase. All of the caveats with matchmaking and the overabundance of microtransactions discouraged players to come back, or even new players to try out the game for the first time. It was simply a matter of time. As of this video, Toylogic has shown off their next project, Warlander, which is set for an official release on January 24th, though the game has already been demoed by various people beforehand. While it holds a completely new visual style, it's undeniable that they're taking cues from Happy Wars. Different character classes, buildables, towers, a war setting that has you infiltrating an enemy castle. Like, come on! That's literally the lightning shower. Happy Wars will forever be a part of Toylogic's design philosophy going forward. Looking back, Happy Wars was really only meant as the first free-to-play game on Microsoft's digital storefront. But it's clear how much the developers cherished their work and wanted to make something they could truly be proud of. And they did. I can't speak for the majority, but for me, it created countless memories that occasionally draw me back to the game. It was undeniably popular and drew in millions, even if its methods of progression weren't the most inviting and the gameplay wasn't really anything special. Even though it spawned a sequel that reached a maximum of 2 million downloads before being shut down and left the original game being all but abandoned, it will forever be a big part of my childhood. It's inevitable that Happy Wars will eventually be shut down one day. But until that day comes, you can be damn sure that I'll be playing this objectively flawed masterpiece till its final moments. Thank you, Toylogic, and thank you for watching.